What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? A little throwback to an old school, crappy, awful Thursday night game. Somehow, I basically watched the entire thing. We started as the Broncos just scored another touchdown on a Spencer Rattler fumble / interception that fell into a Broncos defender. And Sean Payton and his new team absolutely destroy New Orleans on Drew Brees night. And the Saints got a lot of issues. So I do have an idea for the Saints that I would probably implement starting tomorrow. Couple quick thoughts overall. There's not much to take away from this game, but just on Bo Nix, I thought Drew Brees had some interesting comments in the booth with Herbie and Al about Nix, the player, and I tend to agree with. Also wanted to hit on a couple other quick things NFL-wise. Obviously, Tom Brady and his restrictions are going viral again. I saw some comments Aikman made about the Cowboys. Not a great sign if you're on the coaching staff of the offensive side of the ball. The Mike Williams situation, this is like a high character, good guy. And obviously you trade for Devontae Adams. Like it's the NFL, it's a bottom line business. But this Jet situation, man, and it leads into the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. This game Sunday night is going to be pretty fascinating. But before we dive into some football, let's talk about some more football because I'm really, really excited for Saturday for Georgia at Texas and Bama at Tennessee. If you want to go to one of these games, college, pro, do you want to go to an NFL game sometime? Do you live in Los Angeles? Do you live in New York? Do you want to go to a World Series game? Not trying to get ahead of myself. Yankees haven't closed the deal yet, but if you do, I got you covered because my partners and my friends, and they're also the official ticketing app of this podcast. They're the best, man. Best ticketing app I've ever used. Could not be any easier to use. Venues, games, teams. You can search by it all, find price points, sight lines. It does not get any easier. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I was thinking watching the game tonight as the Saints season is over. I mean, their season is officially over on October 17th. Million injuries. Half their team didn't even dress for this game. They lost another 5 or 6 starters during the game. You know, it's most people, I would say my age, if you haven't been married or in a serious relationship long, you have probably been through the situation where you break up with somebody and then you see on Instagram that they're dating someone new. Or maybe you get a divorce and you see that your ex-wife is in a relationship. And it hurts. It stings. Even if you don't even like them that much. But there is just this emotional toll that takes out of you when you go to their page. And you see him smiling, and maybe the guy's got more money than you. Maybe he's better looking than you. But it's still only on the internet, and any moment you want, you can turn it off. There has to be a different feeling than when she comes to pick up the kids in his Range Rover, or if you're sitting at dinner and they pull up right next to you. Like, that would really suck. And I felt for the Saints fans tonight because, listen, he quit on you. He said, I didn't want your job anymore. A couple years later, he goes to a much richer owner, to a more marquee NFL franchise. Now he has his young quarterback, and he comes into your house on Drew Brees' night, this being Sean Payton, when he shows up for a luncheon in the middle of the day wearing a Broncos jersey, no fucks given, which I appreciate, and just kicks the living crap out of you and just ruins. Listen, I was very, very hopeful for this team. I can't even begin to judge whatever the hell roster they're rolling out. They have no chance when they lose all these wide receivers, Taysom Hill, offensive linemen. It's their starting quarterback. It's over. But even if you factor in all the different variables and understand the context, it's another thing to watch Sean Payton kick your ass and he left you with Dennis Allen. You know, and this is the thing I went back and forth on, gambling on the Saints to make the playoffs slash win the division. Two separate bets that are both clearly losers. Is that Sean Payton, like his guy was Dennis Allen. And the reason he's your head coach is really because Sean Payton just picked up and left and you just hired him because he was there and it was easy. And he's been atrocious. And we'll get into Bo Nix here in a second, but Richard Sherman went off at halftime, calling out the Saints essentially quitting on their head coach. And I agree to a point. I also think they're just rolling out such scrub players. But as the game went on, I think there were some parallels to the game we saw the other day in London, where guys clearly quit. And we say this a lot in the NBA. I mean, half the NBA games by the second half, like no one's trying. It just doesn't matter. Who knows in baseball? They play 700 games. How often guys are just kind of going through the motions. In football, for the most part, because it's such a violent game, because your contracts are rarely guaranteed long, you're just constantly fighting for your ass. You're just constantly in survival mode. You're just constantly trying to keep your head above water. And in a game, like most guys try really hard no matter what. And as that game went on, I'm like, I think Richard's kind of got a point. I mean, guys, because listen, I don't think Tyrann Mathieu dropped the interception because he's trying to get Dennis Allen fired. I just think maybe he lost his concentration. Maybe he's not that into the game. Maybe they just realized they got no shot before the ball even kicked off. But as that game went on, guys were over it. They're not even trying, which is something. And one of the main reasons the NFL is has become such a big deal and lapped all these other team sports because they don't have to worry about that. Guys constantly try. You might not win, you might not be good, but the effort's always there. And you're watching that tonight, you're like, ugh, this ain't good. And while Sean Payton has got a good gig, making a ton of money, he's got a young quarterback. Now they got a long way to go. The Saints probably should fire their coach tomorrow morning. I would give Gary Kubiak's son, Clint Kubiak, might just be time to give him the second half of the season and give him a trial run. Now, I'm not acting like you're going to strike oil with this, but after 2 games, everyone was talking about him becoming a head coach somewhere else. Obviously, he knows what he's doing offensively. But if you fire Dennis Allen at the end of the season, you would interview guys like him. So you already got him on your staff. Now, is he ready? I don't know. Why not give it a trial run? What else do you have to lose? More games? More players to injury? To me, the move, after watching that performance and guys clearly tapping out as the game was going on, which, again, I don't totally blame veteran players when they look around and they go, we got no shot. Like, it's easy to say, I would have fought till the bitter end. Well, here's a butter knife, go to a gunfight. Because that's essentially what that game was for a lot of the guys. But we have a long resume now from being a head coach. It was like, well, he coached the Raiders when they're okay. Well, now he's coached the Saints. And it just constantly looks the same. They're obviously not going to win. This guy was already coaching for his job coming into this season. Give Kubiak a trial run. See what he's got. Maybe you'll like it. And maybe you'll feel comfortable because, again, these would be the type guys that you interview at season end. So it would not shock me if by the time we've woken up, or maybe this weekend, that Dennis Allen is relieved of his duties. And this is not something like, I'm not here acting like I don't really care. Because this team now with these injuries is completely irrelevant. I'm just speaking, if I was a Saints fan, that's what I would want. Let's see what Kubiak has. If I was in the front office and I was Mickey Loomis, or I was one of the Benson family members, like, what are we doing? What is the point? Because after a night like tonight, when Sean Payton and the Broncos embarrass us on Drew Brees, night when he's trying to do the chant. I mean, the chant, if you had a chance to look on social media, Drew Brees on Wednesday posted this chant that he wanted the fans to do. And it's has to be one of the more complicated back and forth in the history of chants. And I watched him attempt to execute it at halftime. It's hard to tell because of the audio, but I just think he got a little over aggressive on his attitude to be to pump up the crowd. It's like 1, 2. It's like he talks, they talk, and he goes to like 12. A lot going on, but man, tough to be a Saints fan. Tough to be a Saints future backer to begin the season, but it's over. The roller coaster of an NFL season is moving right along, and it promises to be a month full of tricks, treats, and of course, touchdowns. At DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Running it from the 1 or an 80-yard bomb. We don't care how they score touchdowns. We want to bet on them. DraftKings heard us and is delivering. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. I think when we look at the Broncos and Bo Nix, I might have got a little overhyped and overexcited during the preseason because Bo Nix has looked all over the map this regular season. It's why when me and Colin were talking on Sunday and we were talking about his Purdy list of taking him over Bo Nix. Listen, I wouldn't have taken half the guys he took well before we got to Bo Nix over Purdy, but you could not take Bo Nix over Purdy on October 17th, 2024. They're playing a different sport. But they had Drew Brees in the booth, and obviously he's tied with Sean Payton, and they were asking about Bo Nix. And he said, like, he does some things really, really well. Clearly, movement, throwing on the move, and being able to dial up run plays for him. And then right away, it was like a third down play. They dialed one up for Bo Nix, and he got like 25 yards down to like the 2 or 3 yard line. He clearly is a really good athlete. But when you watch him in the pocket, or you watch him have to be comfortable making throws down the field, it's all over the map. There were a couple passes tonight that looked like he started 10 games in his career. No one in the history of college football has more starts. And it's not like this guy played at Cal Poly and UC Davis. This guy played at Auburn and then Oregon. This guy was in bright lights, big moment games in front of a ton of people with a boatload of people watching on television. So in terms of pressure, in terms of just playing the sport, he's done it a lot. And you watch him, you did last week in the first half, this week at moments during the game, even though the Broncos were in complete control. He could have played the worst game of his career, and they still were going to win because New Orleans was not going to be able to score, and the Broncos were going to be able to run the ball because the defense kind of was over it. But this guy has a long way to go. It's weird. We talked about him, and I'm guilty of this too, and same thing with Penix. Like, hey, these guys are 23, 24-year-old players, ton of starts on their resume, plug-and-play starter. Now, it doesn't mean right when you plug and play him, he's going to light up the world, but he's going to look ready to roll. And I'm watching him, I go, he actually kind of looks more like a project. He just kind of runs around sometimes. Sometimes he makes plays. Sometimes he doesn't. There was a play tonight where he threw a ball. There was a wide open receiver, probably 15 yards away from him. Then there was another guy, probably 12 yards behind that guy. And then there's this open turf. And I don't know what he was doing, but somehow he threw it to the middle of both guys. They literally were both wide open and hit the turf in between them both. And those are plays, and I'm rooting for this guy. I want to see him be a good player. But he's not remotely close. And as someone that was like interested in backing him for 14-1 to win Rookie of the Year, like he does not look like the other guys right now. Now, part of it is the weapons on Denver. Like they got a long way to go in this building process. But this is a legit project for Sean Payton. This is a guy, like he has some elements, I think, why when he originally wanted to transition from Brees to Taysom Hill, problem is Taysom couldn't throw. And Taysom eventually, I know he's injured now, landed at the right position. This hybrid fullback, tight end, running back thing. He's not a quarterback, but he's a football player. Bo Nix shows me enough where it's like, yeah, think he's going to be a quarterback. I mean, obviously he's a quarterback, but I'm not confident like how good the guy's going to be. Now, they already have a pretty good running game. The wide receiver, that'll be a position I would imagine they invest in the offseason slash, free agency and in the draft moving forward. But he needs to get a lot better because for a guy, and sometimes this happens with running quarterbacks, is sometimes in the pocket, like I get it, you're pressured, you move. But sometimes, like, you just got to take a step up and throw the ball. And you saw Rattler doing this a lot tonight. Obviously, you don't want to get crushed in the pocket. But sometimes you think you're going to get crushed, and it's just pressure. You got to move up. And these guys both kind of take off, and it throws off the play. And it gets back to when you have these quarterbacks, like Drew Brees, for example, he could never run. So he had to master the slides, the climbing in the pocket. That's where he dominated. But these runners go, a little pressure, and then they try to leave. And sometimes they break a big run, and sometimes they run into a sack. But what they often do, and this is what coaches, while they don't say this publicly, they say it a lot behind the scenes, and I know I've spent a lot of time around them, it fucks up the offense. So I thought it would be a smoother transition, and I know they're 4-3, and it's obviously trending toward being pretty successful. But for them to be like what I think he wants them to be one day, like a playoff contender. And I'm not talking about a team that could like win 9 games, maybe sneak them. I'm talking about build a program that you can contend. He's got to get a lot better. And for a guy that is a much older player coming out of college with all those reps, if you were of the side of the ledger that was like, I don't really see it, think this is kind of rich. I kind of see what you're saying right now because I've been a little disappointed with the play the last couple of weeks. And, one was a loss and tonight was a win, but man, he's got to calm down a little bit. So yeah, other than that, Denver, New Orleans, I saw who's playing next week. The Vikings are playing the Rams. Hopefully the Rams can get a little healthy because sometimes these Thursday night games, it's one thing when you get a really good game, Tampa, Atlanta, Seattle, San Francisco, and then you get nights like tonight. You're like, is this what it used to be like in 2015? And it's like, yeah, it did. A couple other quick things before we get out of here. Tom Brady. Everyone made such a big deal. Obviously, it was because he was officially given the go-ahead that he was officially, a minority owner of I almost said Oakland Raiders, of the Vegas Raiders. And everyone's like, look at all these restrictions. Well, we knew about these things right before the season started. Remember? So unless someone thought that he was going to get denied as the owner of the Raiders, which clearly was not going to happen, he's been abiding by these restrictions the entire time. And one thing listening to Tom, like, he's still trying to kind of find his way and figure it out. He is not going to be an Aikman. He is not going to be a guy blasting people. That is not his style. While it was his style as a player, he would ride your ass. Even Peyton Manning said, like, listen, I'll do this, but I don't want to be critical of guys. Well, when you were playing, you were on everyone 24/7, 365. That's why we're so fascinated with you guys. But that's not what they're going to do, which is their prerogative. So him not being able to do what? Go to the facilities? He doesn't want to anyway. If he has to pick up a phone call and get these guys on the horn, he will. Where I do think it could get weird. And listen, I don't know. I don't have Tom Brady's bank account, so I don't know how much money he ultimately needs. He would clearly need a lot more if he ever wanted to purchase one of these teams outright for himself and be the majority stakeholder in the squad. But to me, and this is what I always say about Drew Brees, John Elway fit this bill and did it. Like, they feel like guys like, be the team president, be the GM, just go all in on that. But if I'm another team and I start hearing or knowing that he starts getting more involved with Mark Davis, as he should, if I'm Mark Davis, like, I want your advice on I want you to be my close confidant. That's what I've been saying. Well, if that does grow, and the NFL is like junior high, word travels fast. I think people are going to start getting uneasy, even though he's not allowed, like, even with his crew being there talking to him. So it's it's a very slippery slope. I understand why Tom accepted the job. They gave him $375 million or whatever. He's getting paid $375 fucking million to call these games. Doesn't matter if he's good or not. Probably help him make more purchases, invest that money to try to grow it to, purchase more percentage of the team. But I could see if I was on another team, I would just, it's just a bizarre situation. And just for my own sake, what I hope he does, I really hope he kind of takes on a John Elway role and just runs the Raiders as like team, just the head honcho. Mark Davis goes, you control it, which would obviously be the worst case scenario if you're Antonio Pierce or Tom Telesco, because I'm sure Tom would want to bring in his own guys. This is, whenever I say like they're not Aikman will say things which I appreciate because he's just being honest. And like when you see guys, this is what I kind of like about Bill every once in a while, starting taking some shots. Like, what do you think those guys sound like when the microphone and the camera is not on? We all kind of talk the same about people in our industry, right? When we're quote unquote off the record, but only a small percentage of people talk like they do off the record as they do on the record. Let's face it, society as a whole is pretty fake. Most people are pretty fraudulent. They say things behind your back that they would never say to your face. And, these famous players that get into broadcasting, they're like Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They're two separate people. And Troy Aikman feels like a pretty open book. He's pretty transparent. And he went on local radio in Dallas and basically said, the wide receivers for Dallas run the shittiest routes in the NFL. They're sloppy, they're terrible, and he doesn't know what's going on. He says you throw on the film of the Ravens, of the Packers, of the 49ers, you watch the best teams run routes, how seriously they take them, and then you watch the Cowboys run routes. I went, damn. If I was Jerry or Steven, and listen, it's not like Troy has not said aggressive things about the Cowboys before, but that's a pretty direct reflection of McCarthy and the coaching staff. So, and he was talking about CD, he was talking about the whole crew. How they just kind of run around, do what they want. And then everyone complains when the offense looks terrible. Now, their offense, they didn't just lose 47-9 because their routes aren't crisp. But I don't think Troy's just making that up. And he's like, it's hard to play quarterback when you don't exactly know where people are going to go. And then they start bitching and moaning, you're not throwing them the ball. So some of these things, drip, drip, drip. If you're Mike, you better fix some of this shit because Jerry's old, now he's edgy. Can I tell you about my friends at True Classic? Ball's here, and it's time to step up your game. Right now, you can unlock big savings when you bundle packs. Just go to my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/John to save. That's trueclassic.com/JOHN. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe. Here's the thing. I wear the same couple t-shirts because I own a lot of them every day. I like to keep it simple. I don't want to think too much. I'm a podcaster. I don't need to dress up. True Classic sent me a bunch of t-shirts. You can see me rocking it right now. They fit great. I actually just ordered multiple six-packs. A six-pack of black t-shirts and a six-pack of gray t-shirts. In these packs, if you don't want one color, you can mix and match. White, blue. I kind of have a darker green on right now. They fit great. I was asking Maria earlier. I'm like, how do I look? She's like, God, you look pretty good in that. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why I ordered more. They also sent me a pair of joggers and a pair of boxer briefs. Shirts that design your best features with a perfect fit. They really do. Kind of make me look buff. They fit well around my midsection. Cannot recommend them enough. You can mix and match, like I said, and 100% perfect fit. Guarantee and easy returns. So the fall is here. Like I said, step up your game right now. You can unlock big savings when you bundle packs. Just go to my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/John to save. That's trueclassic.com/JOHN. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe today. I am still a little... How do I want to put this? I don't quite believe that they've just been winning games. They're playing a home game. I want to say a good opponent, a talented opponent. They haven't been good because they haven't been winning games, but this opponent you have to take seriously in the Jets. And you're just going to start Russell Wilson? a guy who literally got injured, I think, a couple days right before training camp because he was doing some training method that hurt his calf. So he has been missed a ton of training camp. Obviously, he's been in and out of practice up until the last couple weeks. And you're just going to throw him out there against the Jets in a pretty big game. Like, this is a game, if you're Tomlin and you're the Steelers, you can kind of put a nail in their coffin and dance a little bit on their grave on Sunday Night Football, the most watched television show in America. And you're just going to roll out Russell Wilson in that environment? I started thinking today, it actually probably would be easier to start Russell Wilson on the road if this is really going to happen. And I'm still very, very, I would say, hesitant to believe this. I think this is more gamesmanship with a first-time head coach, a guy that's also the defensive coordinator, who's kind of learning on the fly. It's basically fucking with him, hoping to make him spend a couple extra hours every night, make him a little more tired, make him feel a little more overwhelmed. But I've followed enough people that I don't think that there's not a possibility this isn't real, especially if he's actually taking first team reps. But I think if you do it at home and then the offense looks terrible and he's a sitting duck back there and his dink and dunk kind of strategy that he's implemented these last couple of years, the way Russell Wilson's played, is not working, the fans would freak out. They would immediately start booing and chanting for Justin Fields. So I actually think the easiest way to do it would be, if you did want to go to Russell, start Justin. If the offense was bad, then make a change. And with you paying both these guys $1 million, that feels like the most likely scenario. Again, where I stand right now, Thursday night, my guess would be that Tomlin has been messing with the Jets and that Justin Fields will be the starter. But then you see Justin Fields being asked about this question during the week and giving a very, very mature answer, but saying like, yeah, if it does happen, I didn't play well enough. So maybe they've been on him hardcore in the meetings and the film room. So who knows? But I have a hard time closing my eyes and seeing Russell Wilson, who has not played a snap this season, who's missed the majority of practices so far since training camp started, starting on Sunday night against the Jets, who are, listen, I'm not a believer, but you'd have to be naive to think that you're not going to get a very, very strong effort from the guys. And Russell's going to beat that. Now, I'm not saying like I feel great. I'm going to bet the Steelers, but even Justin Fields beating that. But at the end of the day, he can just take off. And to me, Russell, like, the running days are over. So he's got to pick you apart. Well, they're not exactly rolling out Plaxico Burress and Antonio Brown right now. So now my hope is I just think the Jets thing, I said it last week, been saying it all this week. It's got this NBA feel to it. You know, in the NBA, it's like they love claiming they're player friendly. Like LeBron loves shitting on owners that treat players shitty. And then he just treats any teammate that he thinks isn't good enough the moment he can upgrade like shit as well. He treats them exactly like an owner or a GM would. And that's what Aaron Rodgers did this week to Mike Williams, who the Jets, I'm pretty sure, gave $8 million to this offseason, who's coming off a major injury, who may never be the same. But Rodgers crushed him for not running the right route at the end of the Bills game, which I have no issue with. Everyone's like, you can say whatever you want. Did he run the wrong route, or do we have to fake it? Does he have to say like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about it? Or can he be like, yeah, I shouldn't have thrown it and Mike Williams ran the wrong route? Because if that's what's happened, isn't that what we always want to know? Like, what actually happened? And football is the one sport. It's like, well, unless you know the plays, unless you know where he's supposed to go, unless you know the hot route, unless you know the checks, unless you know the coverages. No, Aaron literally told you he did the wrong fucking thing, which happens all the time in the NFL. But then a day later, they trade for Devontae, and then this guy's just been missing for personal reasons. Obviously, I saw Schrager's like, he's available in trade. Well, I got news for you. No one's going to want this guy at $8 million. No one's trading for him. Absolutely, maybe in the USFL, but those leagues or those teams in that league couldn't afford it. So this is where, if I'm the Steelers, I try to get on these guys early and try to get them to crack, because they got so much going on. You got some other big games like Houston, Green Bay, right? Lions, Minnesota, Niners, Chiefs. Like, one of these teams could get down early and come back. Like, they're all just normal squads, right? Good squads, good players. This Jets thing, one, has been a ticking time bomb since the training camp started. But with every day that went by this week, it's like more and more is going on. That's why I hope Tomlin, who's really good at having a feel for a squad and when to push the right buttons, doesn't screw this up and give the Jets an opening.